Pranasya hi kriya shaktir Buddher Vijnana Shaktita. Matatis? Pranasya hi kriya shakti Buddha Vijnana. Tejasani, produced from egoism in the mode of passion. Indriyani, the senses. Eva, certainly. Kriya, action. Jnana, knowledge. Vibhagashaha, according to. Pranasya, of the vital energy. He, indeed. Kriya Shakti, the senses of action. Buddha, of the intelligence. Vijnana Shaktita, the senses for acquiring knowledge. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Egoism in the mode of passion produces two kinds of senses, the senses for acquiring knowledge and the sense of action. The senses of action depend on the vital energy, and the senses for acquiring knowledge depend on intelligence. Purport. It has been explained in the previous verses that mind is the product of ego in goodness, and that the function of the mind is acceptance and rejection according to desire. But here, intelligence is said to be the product of ego in passion. That is the distinction between mind and intelligence. Mind is product of egoism in goodness, and intelligence is a product of egoism in passion. The desire to accept something and reject something is a very important factor of the mind. Since mind is a product of the mode of goodness, if it is fixed upon the Lord of the mind, Aniruddha, then the mind can be changed to Krishna consciousness. It is stated by Narottam Das Thakur that we always have desires. Desire cannot be stopped. But if we transfer our desires to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the perfection of life. As soon as the desire is transferred to lording it over material nature, it becomes contaminated by matter. Desire has to be purified. In the beginning, this purification process has to be carried out by the order of spiritual master, since the spiritual master knows how the disciples' desires can be transformed into Krishna consciousness. As far as intelligence is concerned, it is clearly stated here that it is the product of egoism in passion. By practice, one comes to the point of the mode of goodness, and by surrendering or fixing the mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes a very great personality or Mahatma. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said, Samahatma Sudurlabha. Such a great soul is very rare. In this verse, it is clear that both kinds of senses, the senses for acquiring knowledge and the senses for action, are products of egoism in the mode of passion. And because the sense organs for activity and for acquiring knowledge require energy, the vital energy or life energy is also produced by egoism in the mode of passion. We can actually see, therefore, that those who are very passionate can improve in material acquisition very quickly. It is recommended in the Vedic scriptures that if one wants to encourage a person in acquiring material possessions, one should also encourage him in sex life. We naturally find that those who are addicted to sex life are also materially advanced because sex life or passionate life is the impetus for the material advancement of civilization. For those who want to make spiritual advancement, there is almost no existence of the mode of passion. Only the mode of goodness is prominent. We find that those who engage in Krishna consciousness are materially poor, but one who has eyes can see who is the greater. Although he appears to be materially poor, a person in Krishna consciousness is not actually a poor man, but the person who has no taste for Krishna consciousness and appears to be very happy with material possessions is actually poor. Persons infatuated by material consciousness are very intelligent in discovering things for material comforts, but they have no access to understanding the spirit soul and spiritual life. Therefore, if anyone wants to advance in spiritual life, he has to come back to the platform of purified desire, the purified desire for devotional service. As stated in the Narada Pancharatra, engagement in the service of the Lord when the senses are purified in Krishna consciousness is called pure devotion. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumil Tamina Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha Vishnu Pada Krishna Prashna Srimate Bhaktivikash Swamini Temine Namo Vishnu Pada Krishna Prashna Mudare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Temine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauran Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Dharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Taija Sanidriyanya Eva Kriya Gyana Vibhagashaha Pranasya Hi Kriya Shaktir Buddhir Vijnana Shaktita. Egoism in the mode of passion produces two kinds of senses: the senses for acquiring knowledge and the senses of action. The senses of action depend on the vital energy, and the senses for acquiring knowledge depend on intelligence. So we see that in purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the distinction between the mind and intelligence, that mind is a product of egoism in goodness, and intelligence is a product of egoism in passion. And this purport is very interesting because it gives us the key for mind control. Many devotees always ask this question: how can I control the mind? And His Holiness Suhotra Swami is writing in this book, Vedic Psychology, Study of the Mind. And also in this book, Maharaj, he quotes this purport. He quotes this key point that here he quotes this one. Since mind is a product of the mode of goodness, if it is fixed upon the Lord of the mind, Aniruddha, then the mind can be changed to Krishna consciousness. So this is the key of controlling the mind. Because we know I have this misfortune to be introduced in a little bit Mayavad philosophy, and when I read these Mayavada books, there they try to suggest that you should become void of desire. You should become desireless. You should meditate in that way that you get rid of all your desires. As Prabhupada is explaining, this is impossible. And Prabhupada gives this example of a very still lake, and surface of the lake. When you there are many lakes here. When you see the lake, surface of the lake, it's very peaceful. It's like a mirror, and then one bubble comes from beneath the surface, from the bottom of the lake, and he pops at the surface, and immediately surface is disturbed. Similarly, Prabhupada is explaining these desires are popping in our mind, our peaceful mind. We think we are peaceful, but then this desire comes. And Prabhupada is giving this process that we should rectify our desires. We should be very introspective. That's why this we always have this inner dialogue, so to say, because we want to make friends with our mind. This is the process, and it's very difficult because our mind does not want to become our friend. He does not want to be engaged in Krishna consciousness. So similarly, if some person does not want to become your friend, you can buy him presents, you can invite him to go to see some movies, to go to dinner, and if this person does not want to become our friend, it would be very difficult. So in a similar way, our mind is like that. Why? Because it is conditioned to lord it over material nature. Because it is conditioned in that way that we think that we are enjoyers, that we are here to enjoy. In that way, we always have this inner dialogue with the mind. And Prabhupada is explaining it is like a captured animal, that if a hunter captures wild animal, it can never fully trust this animal. It can never. Similarly, that is the position of our mind at the present moment, and we have to speak it. We have to preach it. My dear mind, yes, you will have this, but a little bit later, and stuff like that, because our mind is telling us enjoy, stay in bed, sleep, eat more, and this. But we always have to see what is the good for our spiritual life, what is the good for our advancement in Krishna consciousness, and then we have to appease our mind, so to say. Okay, you will do this, but a little bit later. If we are chanting and then our mind is telling us, you're very tired, go to sleep. And then you say, okay, just 2 more rounds, then you will go to sleep. And in that way, gradually, our This is the process that we have to purify our desire. And Prabhupada is explaining in purport that he's giving this importance to following instructions of a spiritual master. This is very important, that at the beginning of a process we accept spiritual master and we accept his instructions. And then he will give us four regulative principles, 16 rounds, and gradually he will advise us in our spiritual path, so we gradually become purified. So we can see there are many examples in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line of spirit soul that appeared in this world just to guide human society, and we can see and we can follow their example. One example is Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, which we celebrate today, Disappearance Day. So somebody may say, how come? I mean, we are celebrating disappearance. It's not usual in the West. Usually you cry, you are sad. But no, in our tradition, we are also celebrating appearance and disappearance. Disappearance even more. Why is that? Viraha Mahotsav. Why is that we are celebrating that? Because we know that these are spirit soul and these are great personalities, and they appeared from the spiritual world just to guide us. And again, when they disappear, they are returning to the spiritual world. They are returning to their original position. The same as when sun is rising and setting. Nothing is there. Sun never ceases to exist if we don't see that sun. Similarly, in that way, great personalities, great Vaishnavas, they never die. They never cease to exist. So we don't know very much about Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan's. There is not so much information about his life, but we know that he was born somewhere at the end of 17th century, and he is born in Baleshwar, near Remuna, in Odisha, India. And this Baleshwar is very famous for Kshira Chor Gopinath. You know this. We all know this story when Madhavendra Puri came there to Remuna, that he wanted kheer to offer it. Kheer is one preparation that is condensed milk that is offered to the deities, and it's very nice preparation. And Madhavendra Puri, he wanted this kheer that he can offer to his deities, and he was thinking in that way, and he thought, oh, this is sinful because this kheer was not still offered to Gopinath. But because Madhavendra Puri was very advanced devotee, then Gopinath, he hid. Jai Shri Shri Pralakshmana Singadeva Bhagavan Ki Jai. He hid one pot of kheer in his garments, and then Gopinath appeared in a dream of one pujari, and he told him, I hid one kheer, so please give this to Madhavendra Puri. And from then on, it is this deity is known as Kshira Chora Gopinath, a stealer of milk. He's stealing milk for his devotee. So Baladev Vidyabhushan, he was born in a Vaishya community, and he's, we can say, he's the example that what Krishna is saying to Arjuna, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, that there are 4 classes of men, but by activities, by guna and karma, by activities and by characteristic of a person, that makes your so to say varna. He was in Vaishya community, but he was not inclined to that kind of work, that kind of a profession, and his father could see that immediately, and he engaged Baladev Vidyabhushan in studying. He gave him to brahmanas that he studied Sanskrit, and he studied Nyaya, philosophy, he studied Vedic cosmology, and he was very, very good at that. But still he had this desire in the heart that he could not fulfill. So he, as a young boy, he traveled to Mysore, to today's Karnataka, India, and there, of course, there was followers of Madhvacharya, and he got their association, and they could see he's very, very, very learned, and he eventually he took Diksha there, and very quickly he took sannyas in Madhvacharya line, and he was very, very scholarly. He would always have these debates, and everybody would see that he was very, very, very knowledgeable and very, very studious. You know that in previous times there were these duels, but not in Western countries. When you have this in 17th century, they would have duels with the swords and pistols and I don't know what. But in India, they would have these discussions. And Prabhupada also liked that. We know that Ananda Krishna Prabhu was saying yesterday that Prabhupada had this discussion with Madhudvisha Prabhu on a plane. So it is very palatable, very, very attracting to that knowledgeable persons, that kind of discussions. So Baladev Vidyabhushan then returned from South India. He returned to Jagannath Puri, and there he met Radha Damodar Goswami. Radha Damodar Goswami, he was in a line of Madhavendra Puri. He was Gaudiya Vaishnava line, and he, because Baladev Vidyabhushan associated with Radha Damodar Goswami, he got very attracted to Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. And he got introduced to books of Jiva Goswami, and he was very captivated. And in that way, he became very attracted, and he started to study Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. And it was a big celebration there that Gaudiya Vaishnava, that Baladev Vidyabhushan, he was sannyasi, and he accepted these teachings. And then at one moment, Radha Damodar Goswami, he sent Baladev Vidyabhushan to Vrindavan to associate with Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur. In that way, he could learn more and get deep in his studies of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And in that period, in the 17th century, it was very difficult period in India. As we know, they were very much under rule of Muslims, and they were very, very cruel Muslim rulers that destroyed Indian temples, and they destroyed deities, and it was very hard time. And then these deities were being protected in that way that they were shipping these deities from North India a little bit, going down to Rajasthan. Rajasthan was very famous because of strong kings, and they could not conquer Rajasthan. Rajasthan was very, very powerful, so to say, and they gave resistance to these Muslims, very strong resistance. And in that way, these deities, they traveled to Rajasthan, to Jaipur, and then this Radha Govinda also came to, which was Ishtadev from Rupa Goswami. They came to Jaipur, and King Jai Singh, Raj Jai Singh, he got very attracted to these deities, Radha Govinda, and he started to worship them, and he got very attracted. But there was one bona fide sect, Ramanandis. They were followers of Sri Ramanuja Sampradaya, Ramanuja Acharya. We know that this is Sri Sampradaya. We know that there are four, in Kali Yuga there will be four bona fide Sampradayas. Brahma, four Kumaras, Shri and Rudra. And they are all bona fide Sampradayas. But some small differences are there. So this sect of Ramanandis, they are actually Ramanuja, they are following Sri Ramanuja, but Ramanuja is a little bit in South India, and these Ramanandis, they are in the North India. So there are a little bit small differences that Sri Sampradaya, they are stressing the more pronunciation of worship of Lakshmi Narayan, and these Ramanandis, they were worshipping Sitaram was more prominent there, and in that way they got a little bit disturbed when they saw that king got attracted to Radha Govinda deities, and they came to king because they were very strong at that time, and they complained to king that how is this, and they challenged a little bit king that this Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we don't know their line. What are they? We don't know. We should question them. And then in that way, king also, Raj Jai Singh, he wrote to Gaudiya Vaishnavas, so please come and convince these Ramanandis that this Gaudiya Vaishnavas is bona fide Sampradaya. And then in that way, the information came to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he sent his friend Baladev Vidyabhushan, because he was very old. He told Baladev Vidyabhushan, please you go and convince them there. And in that way, Baladev Vidyabhushan came to this court, and Ramanandis were also there. Because Ramanandis, they had so to say, there were three clashing points, 3 points that they were not satisfied with, and they wanted explanation from Baladev Vidyabhushan that the authenticity of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya be established, and also they were not satisfied with worship of Radha Govinda. Why? Because they thought this is Parakiya Ras, and it is not proper to worship Radha and Krishna together. Oh, okay, you can worship Radha and you can worship Krishna, but worship them separately in different rooms. Because they are not married, this is Parakiya Rasa. Because Lakshmi Narayan, they are Swakiya Rasa, Sitaram, Swakiya Rasa, no? We can worship them. So in that way, they asked Baladev Vidyabhushan, what is your, where is your commentary of Vedanta? And Baladev said, we have the Vyasadev wrote, we have our Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadev wrote, this is natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra, but they wanted commentary of Gaudiya Vaishnava, and in that way, Baladev Vidyabhushan told them, "Just give me a few days, and I will write it down." And he only needed few days. Why? Because Govinda inspired him. He told him in a dream, "I will guide you. I will give you inspiration to write these commentaries." And then we know that he was inspired by Govinda, and he only needed few days. And in that way, he wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, and he named it Govinda Bhashya. He didn't name it Baladev Vidyabhushan Bhashya, because Govinda, he inspired him. So in that way, we know the same way that Prabhupada was also saying like that I didn't write these books, Krishna wrote them. And that's why he was reading them all the time. And Prabhupada said it, I didn't write this, Krishna wrote these books. Now, similarly, Baladev Vidyabhushan wrote these commentaries, and then Ramanandis read it, and they were very satisfied. So he established, Baladev Vidyabhushan established the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, going to Madhvacharya, and that it was bona fide line, and also established that the Parakya rasa is the topmost rasa, and that you can worship Radha Govinda at the same time, that they are together. And similarly, he explained that these queens in Dwaraka, that they had 10 sons and one daughter, and Krishna was, you can say, 1/12 of queen's love. You know, when wife gets a child, she gives this love to child very much. So these queens had to share, so to say, Krishna with children. But gopis, they were not married, so they could not married with Krishna. So Radharani, she could give all her 100% to Krishna love. And in that way, it was established that Parakya rasa was the topmost, and in that way, you can say that Baladev Vidyabhushan he defeated, so to say. But Ramanandis, they were very appreciative. They didn't cry or something. They very appreciated Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentaries, and they accepted him, and it was very good, victorious moment, so to say, for Gaudiya Vaishnava line in that very nice victory, so to say. And Baladev Vidyabhushan left his body in 1793, and we have this information because a big celebration was there. So we know that actually this disappearance of great acharyas should be celebrated. And because of this big celebration, we actually know the exact year when he left the body. And it was recorded that big celebration was there, that he returned to the back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. I also want to just briefly tell the story, because today is Ganga Puja, just the short story of how Ganga, you know this story when she appeared on earth, how Shiva catched her in his hair. But also there was a story when she appeared personified as a deity on earth. And we know this story of Bhishma Dev. So, who was Bhishma Dev in relation to Ganga? Subal, you know? Who was Bhishma Dev? You know? Yes, son. He was a son. But we know that there was a great king Mahavisha. And Mahavisha, he was a pious king, and he did many sacrifices. And after leaving his body, he got promoted to heavenly planets. And Mahavisha, he was there when there was an assembly of demigods. And then it is said, it is described in Mahabharata that wind blew and garments from Ganga Devi got flown away, and everybody from demigods looked away, because it's not pleasing to see the naked woman. It's not pious. Everybody looked away except Mahavisha. He got attracted. He was looking, and Brahma he acknowledged that. He saw Mahavisha seeing the Ganga Devi. And he told him, now you have to come back to earth again, because you have this desire. You have to appear again on earth. So Mahavisha, he was very regretful, but he knew kings on earth, so he told him, please let me appear in as a Pratipa son. He knew that this king Pratipa, he was very pious, and he wanted to appear in his family. And then Brahma agreed, okay, you will appear as Pratipa's son, Shantanu. And then it was described that he will appear as Shantanu. And then from this assembly, Ganga Devi was going, and she met 8 Vasus. And these Vasus, they were demigods, and they were very morose. They were very sad because they got cursed by Vashishta Muni. They have to appear on earth, because it was described that these 8 Vasus, they stole Nandini cow from Vashishta. This wish-fulfilling cow, because this Dayu was a chief among these 8 Vasus, and they stole this cow, and Vashishta knew, and Vashishta cursed them to appear on earth.
So Vashishta is the father of what's the name of the avatar who came to the Kshatriyas? Parashuram?
Yeah.
Is his father?
Yeah. Is it?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Because there's a similar story about the king who stole the cow.
No, but I don't know his name. It's not Vashishta. It was not Vashishta, but I'm not sure. Yes, but also was there the story, but it was
a similar story.
Yeah, similar story. Yeah, not the same. Anyway, Vashishta cursed them. So 8 Vasus, they said to Ganga Devi, we have to appear on earth, so please become our mother. We want to appear in your womb. And then Ganga Devi said, okay, it will be so. But these 8 Vasus, they actually first tried to appease Vashishta. Please forgive us. We stole your cow. Please forgive us. And then Vashishta, he became merciful, and he said, okay, you will have to only for a few moments you will be on earth. But the main Dayu, the main chief from 8 of you, he must stay on earth. And he will be, condition is also there, he will not enjoy sex life on earth. Because sex life is greatest enjoyment. He gave him this prohibition. You will not enjoy sex life. You will appear there, you have to stay there. And we know this Dayu appeared also on earth. And we know that Mahavishya appeared as Shantanu, and Shantanu was a great king, and he was hunting there on earth, and he saw Ganga Devi, and he became very attracted to Ganga Devi, and then they got married, they got children, and but Ganga Devi gave one condition that I will do. You cannot say anything what is not pleasing to your heart. So to say, if I do something wrong, you cannot chastise me with harsh words. And Shantanu agreed. Okay, it will be so. And in that way, they got married and they got children. But every year, when they got a son, Ganga Devi would throw this son in a river, because they were these 8 Vasus that they were destined just to be a little bit on earth, just for a short time. And in that way, Ganga was throwing her children year after year, and Shantanu was tolerating this because he could not say anything. He gave this vow, and then gradually, when last child, when Dayu was born, then Shantanu, he complained, "What are you doing? This is very sinful, killing your sons. You cannot kill this one." So in that way, Ganga stopped, and she said to Shantanu, "Because you want son, I will keep this son, but because you address me in strong words, I will leave now." And Shantanu begged Ganga Devi just to take this son with her to to the heavens. Just when he becomes a young boy, then he can return. And in that way, we know that Devavrata. This is also another name for Bhishma Dev. So we know that when he became teenage boy, that Ganga Devi, she returned Bhishma Dev to Shantanu, that he becomes a king, that he becomes and we know from Mahabharata that Bhishma Dev, he was very, very powerful and very, very strong warrior. In that way, we can celebrate Ganga as a mother of Bhishma Dev. In that way, we can remember our previous acharyas as Baladev Vidyabhushan, such a great personality, which we celebrate today, his disappearance day. And we have to know by his examples, by examples of previous acharyas, and as Prabhupada is explaining in this purport, the formula of controlling our mind is to control flow of our desire, that our desires should always flow to the service of the Lord. We always should see what is good for our spiritual life and what is not good. We know that, and immediately when these different desires come to our mind, we should think what is good for me, what is not good. We should immediately stop that kind of desires and not meditate on them, not develop them more. And in that way, we will become fixed in Krishna consciousness. So I will stop here. Hare Krishna. If there are some questions, comments. Yes, go in there, Prabhu.
I don't know if you can confirm, but I think because Baladev Vidyabhushana, he wrote his commentary on Vedanta Sutra very, very short time, and usually it takes a very, very long time because each commentary you have to quote always from the Vedas, and this is a very official process, you know. And as far as I remember, that the Ramanandis they didn't believe he can do it in such a short time. So when he actually brought the commentary, they were so surprised, and they were also like admiring, you know, because this is such a high commentary.
Yeah.
So sometimes people don't realize that, you know, we the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we have official commentary on Vedanta Sutra, just like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. We also have our own commentary on Vedanta Sutra.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very amazing. That's why we know that he was inspired. That's why he wrote it, like Govinda Bhash, It's like commentaries from Krishna,
Impossible to write otherwise.
Yeah. So fast. Okay, so Gopal has one question. This is last question. No?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the nice lecture. I would just like to confirm, so to purify desires, it's actually all about just engaging in devotional service in that way. The mind is controlled, the senses are controlled, and the desires will be purified.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is true. That's why Prabhupada says in a purport that he gives this importance to following instructions of spiritual master. What we are doing actually, for regulative principles, chanting, and in that way we become engaged in Krishna consciousness. In that way our desires become purified. Of course, taste is not there, but taste will gradually come. This is what our goal is. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shla Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu ki jai, Ganga Mata ki jai.